That Free Man May Live, a series of television programs concerning you and your freedom. Produced by KTCA-TV, St. Paul, Minneapolis, for the National Educational Television and Radio Center. The price of freedom is constant vigilance, a vigilance which must face many threats. Direct your attention now to one who works and fights for freedom, the Reverend Martin Luther King, pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama.
Will the gentleman
and with that, I will yield the balance of my time to my ranking member.
Ms. Brown, thank you so much. You know, you started off by saying something pretty profound, which is we are here instead of doing the business of the American people because the Republicans have offered us no positive agenda in their year in office. We know we've wasted countless weeks in them just trying to pick a speaker. And we've wasted countless weeks with their inertia and their do-nothing policies. But Ms. Brown, I don't know if you recall, I just don't want people having to take your word for it. I think numerous Republicans have gotten up on the floor of the House complaining about the fact that they have no agenda. I think our colleague Chip Roy from Texas said that the Republicans have not given him one thing, a single thing, I remember him saying, to campaign on. So I just want to ask you, when you're saying that they have no agenda, that's not a partisan point. You're getting that from Republicans, aren't you?
That is correct.
One of our colleagues said that
how are you? Hi.
There was Trump derangement syndrome, and of course Trump derangement begins with Donald Trump himself. He thinks he has a legal right to assassinate U.S. citizens. He thinks he can grab women by their genitals, although that's not the word that he used. He said that if Joe Biden is reelected president, there will be World War II. He is obviously deranged and disoriented, but the real Trump derangement syndrome that I see is those people who cannot break.
So if you want to save America from crooked Joe Biden,
completely,
you must go caucus tomorrow. The first step. The first step you got to do it. We're going to do it big. You got to get out. You can't sit home.
Ones who have not.
If you're sick as a dog, you say, darling.
Broken with Donald Trump.
Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it. If you're sick, if you're just so sick, you go, darling, I don't think. Get up.
Sleeping on the
Get up. You get up. You vote.
And I beg you,
yes,
get
darling. Ultimately, we know who calls the shots, right? Right,
Chairman,
Polly?
Mr. Donald from Florida for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. First, it was said in this hearing, Mr. Chairman, about you specifically, that you repeatedly said you would give Mr. Biden any opportunity. He could choose which one to come and speak in front of this committee. He could do it by deposition. He could do it by open hearing. It was up to him. The truth of the matter, though, is that the chairman's words are not binding. Like, no other member's words of Congress are really not binding. The binding article.
Point of order. Does the chairman agree with that? Point of order. Does the chairman agree?
Are you going to restore my
point
time?
Of order. Just point of order. Okay. Does the chairman agree that the chairman's words are not binding on the committee?
That's not a point of order.
Chair recognizes Ms. Mays from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Comer. First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman,
if the ladies recognize...
If the gentlelady wants to hear from Hunter Biden, we can hear from him right now, Mr. Chairman. Let's take a vote and hear from Hunter Biden. What are you afraid of?
Hold on. Order.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Could you keep interrupting me?
It has nothing to do with the order of this hearing. Thank you. Can I go back to 4 minutes and 34 seconds? That's where I was before I was interrupted by Mr. Raskin.
Yes, reset the clock.
Thank you. What is binding is the actual written document, the written language in the subpoena, because a subpoena from this committee is also signed off on by the clerk of the House. That is the binding document that matters here. That is what governs. That's number one. Number two, that was said in this hearing. It was said that our witnesses said that there was no basis for an impeachment. But remember, members on the Democrat side of the aisle, what was said by Mr. Turley at the time was that there was plenty of evidence for the continuation of an impeachment inquiry. And the purpose of that hearing was the relevant basis for an impeachment inquiry. The House has now voted for an impeachment inquiry. And one of the first things that the House did after the vote of an impeachment inquiry was to subpoena Hunter Biden to appear. Hunter Biden has evaded that subpoena. So flagrantly did he evade it that he decided to show up at the Senate side to give a press conference, and Eric Swalwell, a member of the House, helped him get that time on the Senate side to give a press conference. That's a flagrant violation of a congressional subpoena. Secondarily, he has the gall to show up here when we're actually discussing contempt. And he didn't stay. He was sitting right over there. He's not here now. He said he wants to talk. He could have stayed through the whole proceeding. He chose to leave. That's his business. But he was subpoenaed to come here. Back in December, he chose not to of his own volition. He's in violation of that subpoena, a subpoena that was executed with the signature of the clerk of the House of Representatives. That is the document that is binding. That's what we work off.
You keep interrupting.
I don't know that he's a lady.
I think that that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail. Our nation is founded on the rule of law.
Come on.
And the premise that the law applies equally to everyone, no matter what your last
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Biggs over here.
Donald Trump Jr.
Biggs over here.
State your point, Mr. Biggs.
Yeah, my point of order is this. Are we going to continue on with this blatant interruption? This is absurd and inappropriate. I intend to give my statement. I don't intend to have anybody interrupted. I'm not going to interrupt your statements. I think you should have decorum and courtesy and don't act like a bunch of nimrods.
You just interrupted a woman.
And that's five.
I got permission.
Can we agree? Everyone has
Mr.
5
Chairman,
minutes. Can we agree?
Point of order again. The assertion that I interrupted was absolutely false. That's typical of the gentleman who spoke it. I got permission to speak from the chairman. I spoke. I was interrupted yet again by the gentleman who doesn't choose to go through the chair and follow proper order. I encourage us. I think if we're going to have any respect at all, we need to have proper decorum.
Well said. Well said.
I'd like to finish.
The rules are everyone's going to be recognized for 5 minutes. Anyone that wants to be recognized will be recognized for 5 minutes.
The nature of this administration is good for us. Because of Trump's way, he is an anomaly. There's never been no president quite like Mr. Trump. There's something that he's doing. Trump is destroying every enemy that was an enemy of our ride.
Louis Farrakhan supported Donald Trump.
In the center of the struggle for democracy in America and for the removal of the blight of segregation and discrimination, and for all men to have status as first-class citizens, is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, the pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. And more important, the man who was the central personality and leader in the Montgomery bus boycott, the most remarkable and successful expression of non-violent resistance ever witnessed, not only in America, but anywhere in the Western world. We're pleased to have with us today Dr. King.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Dr. King, we believe that your experience and your training and your dedication to the realization of having all men live in a free society, that you can provide us with some ideas, some methods, some techniques, some words of wisdom as to how we might achieve that and those goals in America. And one of the things we'd like to ask you to discuss with us is what is the particular problem which confronts the Negro in the South today in the efforts to obtain freedom and first-class citizenship?
Well, I think the biggest problem that the Negro confronts in the South today is the continued existence of a system which stares him in the face almost every day saying you are less than, you are not equal to. And I refer to the system of segregation. The tragedy of the system of segregation is that it not only harms one physically and makes for physical inconveniences, but it does something to the soul. It gives the segregator a false sense of superiority, and it leaves the segregated with a false sense of inferiority. So that this is one of the things that, and probably the major problem that the Negro confronts in the South in his struggle for freedom and human dignity, the continued existence of this system and the resistance of forces that are not really in line with the struggle for freedom, forces that are enemies to democracy.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics. Hi guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics, streaming to you this MLK night, freezing in Texas, and being free-thinking, innovative, and open-minded. Don't forget, guys, we've got a Rumble, YouTube, and TikTok Twitter channel in as well. If you're listening in on that, please embrace progressive action like Martin Luther King wanted you to do. Also, make sure that you like the video, click subscribe, and join our Patreon. Be a contributor. You can help empower those progressive values in action your own way. Today, I've got a special guest with me, a good friend, Black activist, and public speaker who I know in the Dallas area, K. Fata Muhammad, K. Fat. How's it going, K. Fat?
All is well. How's everything going, sir?
I mean, I'm cold as balls, bro. It's cold out there. They canceled the Martin Luther King march today at Dallas. Did you hear about that?
I did. I was not surprised. The weather became so inclement. I didn't imagine anyone would be outside in this type of cold. I think it is an opportunity for us to come inside and reflect on the legacy the man Martin Luther King has left for us, to have awesome conversations like we're going to have tonight.
Do you think they were marching in the north, Cincinnati and Michigan?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, Tommy, I hadn't checked the news. Kind of what has been on my news feed is the loss of the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, that
was a bad loss.
It's a bad loss, and it's a depressing loss. But, you know, I think that is a commentary of the times that we live in. I think the weather is the timing of this kind of weather on this particular federal celebration. I think it's a good opportunity for us to look deep into this man's life, because we're not marching right now. The day went by not marching. And so this is probably a sign from above that we may have to look deeper into this man's life.
I agree with you on that. I spending a lot of time on his speeches, and the I Have a Dream speech, which is one of his famous speeches.
Yes.
His beginning was, the Negro is on a vast island of poverty with no more rights and liberties than he had before. For 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. The Negro still only has the freedom of hunger and insecurity. And, they said that it's Statue of Liberty. It says, give me your tired, your refuge, and seeking to breathe free. And it seems like there only seems to be one kind of American that really has that freedom to this day. What do you think about that? I was thinking about that.
Yeah. One of the things that Martin Luther King stood for was for men to be judged according to their character and not according to their color. America has a history of judging based on race. America even went to the lengths of bringing many European immigrants here and classified them as white for the purpose of the count in terms of who will have a majority population-wise. So I do think that we are in a time where character is becoming something of value, where the judgment that we have of others should be based on character and not of color. I think that is something that he wanted to see. And I think that's something America, all of us who live in America, we can begin to practice that and then have that practice in every endeavor and avenue in the United States government and in our society as a whole.
So you're Louis Farrakhan. He was talking about the character of Donald Trump. I don't know if you were listening to his little monologue, but he made some interesting points. Check it out, guys. Listen one more time.
Nature of this administration is good for us. Because of Trump's way, he is an anomaly. There's never been no president quite like Mr. Trump. There's something that he's doing. Trump is destroying every enemy that was an enemy of our ride.
Louis Farrakhan support Donald Trump.
So do you want to respond in your perspective? Like exactly, do you agree? Do you disagree with Mr. Farrakhan's assessment?
You know, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan has a track record of seeing things from a perspective that many of us do not see things. He offers a very bright perspective, an outlook on things in a way that what we're used to, it can challenge what you're used to. I don't think in fact, I'm pretty sure there was no endorsement, if you will, from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
He didn't say anything about Biden. So is that not an endorsement?
Well, I wouldn't say. I don't think that qualifies as an endorsement. You know, a man who has spent several years giving his perspective to enlighten the minds of his people. I mean, the man wrote a book called Torchlight for America. He has a vested interest, as we do in this country, in seeing America go right and having a perspective to see things a little differently, because I'm sure you know there are two basic political parties here in America. And having that bipartisan look at things can sometimes become stagnant. And being able to listen to a voice like the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, men like Martin Luther King, who offered such a dynamic perspective from a voice that was misrepresented or underrepresented, I should say, it's refreshing. And I think that your shows like yours, offer space for people to speak their mind and to allow those to hear what it is they have to say.
Well, I appreciate that you saying about the show, but like, let's just be real about like the content of the character, and let's be real about these two parties.
Yeah.
And you saw this bipartisan perspective. I mean, you see it every single day with the. I mean, what are they really caring about? Are they caring about American interests? Do they have the same interests as Martin Luther King or Farrakhan, by that matter? Or are they constantly just wanting to get Hunter Biden indicted? Are they trying to get Biden impeached? Are they trying to get Trump indicted? Trying to get Trump Jr. impeached? These two parties are beyond the pale of, let's just say, simple logical perspective. I mean, everybody knows in the show knows my perspective. You're my guest, but it's interesting you say we all should be reflecting on the character of these people and the character of the race of the. Here's a question: a character of these two parties. There's an election going on. I don't. Have you been paying attention at all, Fatso?
I've been keeping up somewhat. Yeah, I have been keeping up somewhat.
have you seen any kind of reflective interests that reflect your interests with either of the sides of these two parties candidates?
You know, to be honest with you, Tommy, growing up in a somewhat democratic community, I began to see how valuable it is to want to include many, many voices. That's a valuable thing, to include many voices. And that's on the Democratic side. That was kind of the perspective that I thought it represented. And as we do a little history, we find out that politics plays a particular role in the United States of America. You know, the term that I was taught from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is public servant. And a public servant is somebody who advocates for the rights of the public, advocates for the right of the man or woman who doesn't have a voice. And I do think that both parties do have qualities in them that really represent what's good for America. But platforms are very similar to things that we say that we believe in. And what we really are is what we practice. And as a practice, politics is known for saying one thing, but doing another thing. And you can just look at the morale of the Black vote. You can look at the morale of the young people and how interested that they are or not interested in what's going on. So I think we have quite a bit of work to do to make sure that the character of our political engagement is reflective of the true characters that America should stand for, which is freedom, justice, equality, and having the ability to have free speech, freedom of the press, to allow for a variety of thought.
So it's interesting because they always tell me, the conservatives do, on the local levels, we can be more effective, right? That's some place I've been trying to look. And, you know, since I live in Dallas, you live in Dallas.
Yes.
I've been looking outside into the political sphere and the governmental workings of Dallas. And just to see as a microcosm of like what I could do with the positive impact I could make on my community.
Right.
And I'm seeing almost the same level of corruption, Fata. I want to really talk to you about this because you live in Dallas too. The same amount of corruption on the local levels that I do in the national levels. Let me give you an example. So they postponed this march, this action that Martin Luther King himself many times did during the civil rights movement to try to push a narrative of nonviolent protest for equality, right? This was a powerful, powerful thing. And as much as I don't know if I would be out there marching right now because it's cold. What they did manage to do, was to do a fundraiser on Saturday. The city council, they got this guy, this pastor. I don't know his name. Okay, I'll look it up if anybody questions me on the live stream. But they made a lot of money last night. The city did, doing fundraisers for Martin Luther King, a man who was talking about the Negro's boundless island of poverty for 100 years. And here these governmental servants are making money off of the name of his message while not even acting in any way towards the character or the goals of his interests. And that really pissed me off. I have a lot of people. I talked to Devontae Peters, who's running for city council. I interviewed him, and he says this is the reason why he got into the race in the first place. But you get into these races, and you realize that it's hard to affect change without negotiation because politics is about leverage, right?
Right.
And so, what do we have to leverage to get any kind of policy or interests that we would ever be of value.
Yeah.
That's the problem that we have here, and that's the problem in Dallas and all over the country is we have no leverage.
Right.
So that's. Do you have any? How do we get that leverage? Have you thought about that? I thought about that a lot.
Yeah. Yes. You know, Martin Luther King, he did something that was very new during his time, and he used what's called the power of the boycott.
Yeah.
Now, he became very popular because of this boycott, and his ability to affect the minds of his peers during his time period is what gave him the political notoriety and prowess that we know that he had. And being able to tell Black people, don't spend your money here, spend your money there, or spend money with your own. That was the power of Dr. Martin Luther King.
How do you think he made that effective? How did Martin Luther King affect boycotts that well?
Well,
I don't know any guy that could do that.
Well,
The conservatives, they tried to do Bud Light, right? Didn't
Mhm.
work. People try to do those things. They don't work like they did before. Why is that, do you think?
Well, you look at the timing of Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King was born in 1926. 4 years later, the beginning of the Nation of Islam started, and Black people began to organize themselves, primarily with the Nation of Islam, but so many other organizations like the Black Church were impacted by the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and many ministers like the Honorable Louis Farrakhan at the time, Louis X, and Minister Malcolm X, and many of his great ministers who began to make alliances with many Christian pastors and affecting Black consciousness. So the people at that time, we really had nothing but each other. So the people at that time really are the ones who we can also give credit to, because there is no Dr. Martin Luther King without the people who are listening to his voice.
Right.
The people were a little different back then, and things were not as clouded in terms of, well, what are our political alliances? What issues do we have in common? Those issues were very easy to see in that time, when the ones who were doing the most harm to our people were people who did not look like us.
Also, segregation.
Mm-hmm.
Segregation, I think, was a very good factor in motivating Black America.
That's right. That's right. Separate but unequal. I mean, having to be separate, but not having the equality of education or equality of opportunity. That's right.
Do you think in the long-term outcome, desegregation has been a net good for Black America?
I think as a net, it has not netted us that much. I will say this, though.
Really? Okay.
I will say that
desegregation did not net us that much. You're saying that?
No.
I kind of agree. I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, overall, we lost quite a bit. We lost that sense of community. Now, I'm only speaking from what I've heard people say, because I didn't grow up during that time.
Yeah.
But I do know that the communities that I grew up in San Antonio, these were I grew up in the after effects of segregation and what we call a brain drain, where the bright minds of Black people were drawn out into an integrated society. My grandfather, my mother's father, was in the United States Navy at the time when it was integrated. And integration, as we know it, was a political move. It really didn't benefit Black soldiers to the extent that I think it should have, because many Black soldiers went to war and wanted to serve in the Army to prove how much how American that we are and hope America would be. Unfortunately, when many of us returned home, we didn't get received with the open arms and with the mental, psychological, and financial support that were given to white soldiers.
But like, Riley, did the white soldiers get really much anything for their
look,
services? This
when
whole
you
entire military-industrial complex has been a sham for the
Yeah.
working class American or the regular, normal American citizen in the first place.
That's right. That's
To
right.
this
I mean,
day.
to this
To this
day.
day. I see a lot of people, as we're getting involved in Yemen conflicts, Taiwan conflicts, Ukraine conflicts, Russian conflicts, conflicts all over the world. They're
Mhm.
still arguing about whether or not we should give money to these countries, whether or not we should help Israel facilitate a genocide in Gaza. I see so many people really just caring about those things and not the fact that 5 million people last year slipped into poverty. The child poverty rate was literally doubled in the last 2 years. Child poverty has doubled. The infant mortality rate has increased 5%.
Mhm.
Income inequality hasn't been seen since the Gilded Age. Wages have stagnated. Inflation has increased cost of living expenses. And you will spend half of your income this year, Fata, on lodgings,
Right.
on rent. Half of your income you will spend on rent. So it's very interesting how it's just such something I can't even articulate it to you, man. The frustration as a progressive, watching these things take place and to hear the same old arguments come forward every election, and two horrible options, two horrible warmongering, non-interested buffoon narcissists who will literally will only only want your vote. They're the wolves and the foxes that Malcolm X talked about.
Mm.
And it's interesting how even at the Dallas level, did anybody know that these yahoos, these raccoon losers? I don't want to say coons, but they are. Most of them are black. It's the Dallas City Council. You know that, right, Fata? You know that half of the Dallas City Council is black.
Mm.
You know that they're coons and they're fucking doing fundraisers during Martin Luther King Day. You know that? Did you know that?
I did not know that. And I would say this because being a black person in politics in America, it's a very difficult thing. It's not easy. And I do understand your frustration because it seems like there is very slow progress.
Oh my God.
To where we want to go.
Slow progress, bro.
And I do know that being a black politician, it takes guts and it takes courage. Because knowing our history in politics, we don't have a lot of support from our own community. So I do understand your frustration. I do pray for our leaders who are, or at least our members of our community who are seeking and doing what they think they need to do to make a change. And we as the people, we can do a lot more with them to make sure that we hold not only them accountable, but be more accountable in our local politics, our state politics, so that we can offer a fresh perspective and keep an eye on things that are going on. Because, you know, I was taught by one of the ministers, Brother Abdul Halim, Brother Abdul Halim in Houston, the Southwest Regional Minister of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, that the world is run by those who are present. And we have a lot of work ahead of us to get our people active and present at many of these places where power and legislation is formed and where power is utilized, so that we can become part of the decision-making process and offer a different methodology for things that we're dissatisfied about.
So we're the Democratic Party. They're a big part of the decision-making process. We've always been a big part of the decision-making process as the system allows us. The part where we were most effective, though, was when the system did not allow us to be effective, and that was the boycotts. So I always go back to. It seems like there have been there's a lot of immigration in this country. A lot of people are very xenophobic about it. It's drawn a lot of interesting contrasts of allies and political ideology. There's a lot of black people who agree with white people about the immigration crisis as far as the southern border goes. What do you think about the southern border? do you think about what's going on with immigration?
Yeah. Well, as I look at the current situation, I look at the opportunities and some of the difficulties that come along with it. Our teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, taught us that this land was taken from the indigenous people. And we were told of many prophecies that this land will be returned to its original inhabitants. We're living in a time where that is more than likely happening right before our eyes. How would it be given back? What would it look like when the borders are opened again for those sons and daughters of the original inhabitants of this land would now be given the opportunity to come back to the land of their ancestors? Well, the
What
way
would
I
that
look
look like?
at it,
Yeah, go ahead.
the way I look at it, I think this is an opportunity for those of us who have been here to teach our brothers and sisters the value of, if you're going to come here, learn from us. Because here in America, Black Americans, we don't have a history of leaving where we are. We fight to make it better. And coming here presents an opportunity not only for them, but for us, because I began learning Spanish, and I do teach English to many immigrants, and I'm a teacher in the public school in the Richardson Independent School District, and many of my students are from Venezuela and from Colombia. And every opportunity I get, I make an opportunity to talk about the struggles of our people and the value of seeing the value of where you come from. But as America says, America has this saying, our colors don't run. Well, we can only make the world better if we stay put, stay where we are, and make it better. The conditions of many of them that are coming here are intolerable. Conditions that we live under here are intolerable. And we pray and we hope that many of the immigrants who are coming here can learn, extract all of the valuable resources that we have to give them, and hopefully with the mindset, going back, making life better based on the rich history that men like Dr. Martin Luther King left for us, that we stay right where we are and we work to make our lives better, home and then abroad.
I think that's a refreshing perspective. That's a very unique perspective that you have, Fata. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm hearing a lot on both sides about, oh, it's a crisis. Oh, these people are here for jobs, and then they're ignored just like us. And it's like, that really is what it is needed is a learning experience, is a camaraderie experience, a uniting experience. While both political ideologies or interests, they're not ideologies. They're just thieves, murderers, and liars. But I don't want to give them too much credit. They're just thieves, murderers, and liars. These guys, they're not ideologies. But I think they only have one thing in mind, and that is their, to make chaos, create chaos, so that we can expect chaos, right? Can we expect anything to be better when chaos is happening? Well, we have no idea what's going on during chaos, right? That's the whole point of chaos, right?
That's right.
So this is exactly what they want. How it's happening is exactly what they want. These borders are unchecked, and the government is not accountable. You said something about how to get people with the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
I said that we're already in the decision-making process. We're just not seeing all of these. I guess all of these people break the law that are our leaders. We're still respecting them, and we're still giving them passes, even though they're authority. Where do you think this comes from? This whole idea that authority gets a pass when they commit atrocities or things. It's weird.
Well,
I feel like it's a religious thing. It's a religiously rooted thing. I feel like that. What do you think?
It's very much like growing up at home. As children, we see the things that are done, those who are leadership. And in leadership, we're told here in America that we should hold leadership at a very high stake because of the position. But of course, when we're dealing with character has to be developed. We should put above the pursuit of trying to sit in a position, the development of character. I do think that we do overlook quite a bit. I mean, Tommy, our people are very forgiving because we're taught about a forgiving man who gave forgiveness.
Yeah. So that's my point, Fata.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
And
my point.
So, I mean, when you have a people who are raised up with this basic teaching from childhood that you forgive those who do you wrong, then we have to find a balance to the teachings. And this brings me to the point about Dr. Martin Luther King and the value of boycott, because fundamentally, Tommy, we grow up kind of putting commercialization over the principles that Jesus taught during the time that's supposed to be his birth. And right now there is a campaign going on called Up with Jesus, Down with Santa that's been going on for the past 8 years that was started by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and many members of the Black Church and other Christians who see the value of what Jesus taught and how it's affecting the lives, how commercialization is affecting every aspect of our lives and the way that we think, the way that we handle leadership, because it really has turned us into people that are easily led in the wrong direction.
You're saying that marketing campaigns, advertising slogans lead people in the wrong direction, Fata?
No, what I'm saying is commercialization. Growing up in a society where we grow up extolling presence over the pure word of what Jesus taught. Dr. Martin Luther King was known because he was a pastor, but he took those principles of speaking truth to power. I mean, commercialization, he stopped people from spending their money for this thing or riding the bus, participating economically in a system that was oppressing our people. We find ourselves in a very similar situation where our oppression now is based on our pocketbooks. We are oppressing ourselves, and this is feeding into our ignorance as a people to be easily led in the wrong direction. A man or a woman who is a consumer versus being a producer is easier to control. And I think these messages that we were given, we should work to make sure those messages, that the truth that Jesus spoke about, the values and the character development that Jesus spoke about, up with Jesus, down with Santa, so that we can begin to create a future generation, not of consumers, but of thinkers.
Are you using Santa to like encapsulate the entire consumerist id? Is that what you're trying to use Santa as? Or are you just attacking Santa?
Well, it's not an attack on Santa, because, there is no real Santa. It's a concept. And I wouldn't say it's an attack, it's just an observation. To say up with Jesus, down with Santa is just a matter of putting things in perspective. Right now, Santa, during Christmas time, which is Jesus's birthday, it has a little too much weight. It's too much weight. It's too heavy in our minds, as opposed to, well, how are we going to celebrate the birth of Jesus? Maybe we should invest more time in practicing and talking about what the presence of Jesus represented. And it's unfortunate. I wouldn't say it's unfortunate, but this is just the time that we're in. It's taken the call of a man like the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, who is like unto a voice like Martin Luther King. For the past almost 45 years, he has been speaking to our people and to the United States with the hope of bringing our thought process up so that we can be more accountable to ourselves and put America in a better place.
Where's Mr. Farrakhan live? Where does he live?
He's based in the city of Chicago.
In Chicago? So he lives in this country.
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know. That's why I asked questions. I'm never leading anywhere. I'm not one of those Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to move, because we've already been talking for like 45 minutes. I can talk to you all day. I do sometimes. But I do want to get your take on a little bit of these advertising campaigns, like you were talking about, these consumerist advertising campaigns. One of the biggest advertising slogan campaigns that are going on right now is not only just should we forsake our principles or values, our religion, our Jesus Christ for a false God, right? Which is material possessions, but also we should forsake our principles and values for a leader that will, of course, I don't know what they're. I don't even know what these guys are really. I don't think they're even promising anything anymore. I think they realize that we know they're lying. But here's Vivek Ramaswamy. Have you heard this guy? He's an Indian. Do you know Ramaswamy? You know about Ramaswamy?
Yes, sir.
Ramaswamy. This guy's from Harvard, bro. He's a Harvard nigga. This guy is pretending like he's just some kind of little Indian that immigrated to this fucking country. And yeah, I'm a Republican because he's a Republican, so he can't say he's from Harvard. But I checked his Wikipedia, Fata. This nigga's from Harvard. At Yale. And he's a biotech CEO. He probably created COVID. Who knows? Republicans will never ask. But here's him. He's going to talk about Trump because he's in a race against Trump. And listen to this, guys. This is hilarious. This is best.
Tweeted out or posted, Vivek started his campaign as a great supporter, quote, the best president in generations, etc. Unfortunately, now all he does is disguise his support in the form of deceitful campaign tricks. Very sly, but a vote for Vivek is a vote for the other side. Don't get duped by this. Vote for Trump. Don't waste your vote. Vivek is not MAGA. The Biden indictments against his political opponent will never be allowed in this country. They are already beginning to fail. MAGA and his team went after Vivek in even more stark terms, calling him a fake and a phony. And they had seen at
Larry Elder, former 2024 presidential candidate, can join us now. Good morning, Larry. Great.
So I thought I had the video of this guy because he was in Iowa. I'm sorry, guys. I thought I had the video of him talking about, Vivek was talking about how, like, vote for me to save Donald Trump because he believes in the rule of law, right? Republicans, family values, rule of law. Of course, this president can't affect the Department of Justice in any way, right? He's got to appoint a guy, attorney general, and the attorney general runs it. And there can't be any collusion. That's the way the law's supposed to work. But this guy's, Trump is so popular with the Republicans. This Indian guy has to promise the Republican Party he's going to save Trump. And that's the only way he can win. So what do you think? That's the last bid that Republicans have to offer to Republican voters, is that I'll save your game show hosts idol. I won't make your health care better. I won't fucking cut your taxes. I won't do a goddamn thing about your rent, but I will save Trump. What do you think? Is that good enough for you? What do you think, Trump? Alta? You got it. What do you think? Good pitch?
He's a very electrifying figure. I mean, many people are comparing him to former President Barack Obama. You know, just in terms of
Ramaswamy.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, he's trying. You know, his appeal is he wants to be hip, and I can understand that, and I understand his appeal to the present conservative body politic and the conservative voters. And what former President Donald Trump has done for that base, he found a way to electrify it, very much like Barack Obama did. These two past presidents, they did a wonderful job that's worth studying on how to affect the future of political thought. I think that in this current climate that we're in, concerning all of the difficulties he's going through to be on the ballot, how he's being taken off the ballot and in and out of jail on many things, I can understand his methodology. Will it be successful? I don't know, because these times are so weird.
Yeah.
In terms of what people expect, what's coming out, what is being known.
They don't really expect much, do they? We don't expect much, do we?
Yeah.
Do you expect much? I don't.
I mean, from that, I expect it to do exactly what it's been doing, which is to produce the next president.
You
know.
Yes. One thing I like about you is that you never say anything bad about anybody. I noticed that about you, bro. You always start with positive, and you always go talk about the things that you like about someone or you admire about someone, and you highlight those. That's a really good like character thing. I don't know if that would win in any election, but that's the thing about this game is communication. One thing I've learned being a restaurant manager and being a public speaker and a podcast is it doesn't really matter how good of skills you have with multitasking, time management, budgeting, profit loss. What matters is the communication to people. That's the most frustrating thing that I've started to come to understand is that really you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't talk to people the way they want you to talk to them, then you're ineffective. Isn't that crazy? Is that crazy?
It is. It's crazy on one hand, but it's also just the nature. America, the American public, we've been going through something called a dumbing down process. We're easily led in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right direction. Very easy. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that about us. That we are
like us, like people in general, or just black people.
Because that's just something he said, who is the 85%? These are the poison animal eaters, people who don't know their origin in this world, who worship what they know not what, easily led in the wrong direction, hard to lead in the right direction. He didn't say, 85% was a term that was given to us because we're talking about, it doesn't have nothing to do with race, it has something to do with the way that people think. 85% of the population is easily led in the wrong direction, and we need a critical mass to make things happen. And education is the key. It really is the key.
You haven't given up on education. You teach. So
yes, sir. I'm in Richardson Independent School District. I have a class about 24 every day. I get more students who are immigrating from other parts.
Do you teach them what you just said to critically think?
Yes, sir.
Do that? Good for you.
Yeah, because we have opportunities to talk about character development, and every once in a while I get a chance to talk about our culture here. Okay. But I have to communicate it in Spanish. Okay. So I think education is the key, and many of those children that I'm teaching, I can see them understanding, the culture of the people who are here, because coming here, listen, many of them, they know we don't speak Spanish. When they look at us, when they saw me on that first day of school, they weren't expecting this, because when they get here, they know that it's shut off. Our communication with them is pretty much shut off. So they don't have no one else to talk to but the ones who are bringing them here. We have an opportunity to connect with them, teach them, and hopefully impact the future, or take them out of the path of being used by somebody else to make use of their time here, so that we can get some benefit while we live with them. Because they really are, they come here, they get to work. And I understand their situation, because whoever's bringing them here and whoever they are, because we don't really know who they are.
They're ISIS.
We don't know where they.
I'm just kidding.
We don't know. So best thing we can do is.
Trump says they're rapists, they're drug dealers. Some are good people.
Yeah.
You think that's true?
I mean, you think about many Indian immigrants who come here. Who is able to afford a trip to America?
Indians from Dubai.
You see what I'm saying? People who are from these, costs money to do these things. Whoever's funding them being here, there's a purpose behind it. It may not.
You think it's China? You think it's China? Could it be China?
Look, at my options are open, because there's so much at stake right now.
What's at stake?
Well, what's at stake is, for one, the word country. The root word for country is the count. When the Civil War was over, we were classified as 3/5 because they wanted to dilute our numbers. Politics is about diluting and redistricting to dilute the political power. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that our unity is more powerful than a hydrogen bomb. If we can find a way to unite while we still have a chance, they probably intend to dilute our numbers with those who are coming here. That may be an unfortunate, nefarious plan. However, what they plan to do and what God has in mind, those are two totally different things. And God is the best of planners.
I mean, that's a whole different argument in itself. God and plans, and the fact that he could be probably exists, and like I have a whole different argument with that. If God is a good planner, he planned this. I don't think that's a good plan. That was a good plan.
What I'm saying is
bad plan.
What I'm saying is taking advantage of an opportunity.
Okay.
The opportunity, I saw an opportunity. I started learning Spanish, and I want to teach 1,000 Black Americans Spanish. Many of people in our nation, the Nation of Islam, we're teaching English and Spanish to one another because we want to take advantage of our brothers, because in our lessons, we're taught what is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America. The population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America is 17 million. With the 2 million Indian, makes it 19 million. So if we're going to be with our indigenous brothers, we have to give ourselves the opportunity to be with them by speaking their language so that they can have another ear to listen to other than somebody else, or a different voice to listen to other than the voices of those who are bringing them over here. Because I've spoken to many of them, Tommy, and many of them think that we live, as you say, in a post-racial America. And I'll tell them in Spanish, let me tell you as your brother, our people have been here. It sounds good at the beginning, but it gets a little different when wartime comes.
And when are we not at war? When are we not at war? We're always at war.
Exactly.
So wartime is all the time.
It's all because it's always a method behind. There's always a method behind bringing people here. There always has been, and it has something to do with the labor, not giving a fair labor. So then you inflate the numbers, you inflate the value of the dollar. What's left for those who are here?
Agree.
Now it's being that they have to be taught.
That's one of the things that I think is that the people that are coming through the border, they are under a false pretext that we are the richest country in the world, where all of our population is in debt. We have a deficit of $35 trillion that is increasing consecutively every year. Like the American dream is literally like, have you ever seen Pinocchio? Remember Pleasure Island? That's what the American dream is, bro. Don't come. Like I would just say, do not come. Do not come. Because Kamala said do not come for a different reason, but like literally, like it's Pleasure Island, bro. It runs on nothing but slavery. It's run on slavery since the beginning of time. We just call it credit. We just call it what do we call it now? We call it credit. Credit. What's your credit?
That's right.
That's what we call it now. Instead of slavery, we call it what's your credit score?
Yes, sir.
And then you can't buy a house. You can't.
That's right.
You can't rent. You can't even fucking like go to certain schools or have certain jobs because they do a credit check. So
that's right.
all they have to do is say, what is your credit score? And boom, we're back to slavery. This country's run on slavery since the beginning of time. They've just revamped it. They've just re-advertised it, rebranded it as other things.
That's right.
It's always been. So guys, I just want to tell can you interpret that into Spanish for me? I just want to tell my Hispanic brothers and sisters that are coming through the border. It's this country is literally slavery rebranded every single day. Every single decade. Go ahead, sir.
Este país.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you. Tell them.
En total es la esclavitud.
Yes.
La deuda y la opresión.
Mucho
opresión.
Mucho.
And Tommy, I do want to say this because we're celebrating Martin Luther King, and I don't know if many people know this, but it was my father with the name and other political activists in the city of San Antonio who worked in the 80s and closer than the 90s to make it possible that we celebrate this holiday. As the son of such a man, Ricky Marshall Green, who was behind the political intelligence to get it done. I just feel so, I'm very grateful for the work that my father did with Frontline 2000 to make this holiday possible, because it's given us in Texas an opportunity to speak about a man who many say was a prophet. a man who wanted something so much, something better for the American people. Yes, his message was taken over, but deep down, what that man represented, that a change is coming to the American people. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned my father's name, Mario Salas, in the name of their organization that my mother helped with, Frontline 2000, helped to get the Martin Luther King holiday passed here in the state of Texas.
Well, thank you for the contribution your father and gave, and that was a very positive impact. Thank you for the contribution that you're giving to young people, helping them think freely with innovation and be totally open-minded. And we're definitely going to talk more, Fata. I always think that you and I should get together because we agree on the same issues. You have a much better, more optimistic approach. I have a more fire and blood approach. Somehow, if we ever like conglomerated, I think that we could be a really good political team. Good cop, bad cop.
I think so too.
So yeah, I think so. But I know you're busy making positive impacts on your communities and teaching the young how to think critically. That's a really good goal in and of itself. So it's not like you're not doing nothing. So guys, it was a good it was good to talk about this. Remember that injustice is everywhere. That you can always make positive impacts on your community, as Martin Luther King said, and as Black Lives Matter said, no justice, no peace. What I believe. What do you think? No justice, no peace? You agree with that?
Well, when there is no justice, there is no peace.
It's just
just
a consequence.
It's very difficult to be done unjustly and to have peace of mind,
isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like Trump would say, sad loser. Just kidding. I wanted to talk about bashing Joe Biden, but like I want to leave this on a high note with like inspiring things. So we'll bash Joe Biden later. But is he a loser? Guys,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think President Biden is doing the best he can.
What? What'd you say?
He's doing the best that whatever the cards he's playing with.
Yo, this guy. Listen to Fata, guys. Listen to Fata Muhammad, bro. He is literally saying good things about the worst president we've seen since Andrew Jackson, bro.
Listen, because
he's the most optimistic motherfucker you've ever seen, bro. This guy, you need him in your life.
I plan on when I make my attempt to run for office, I want to make sure that when I ask those who used to support former presidents, I want to make sure they hear something positive coming from me.
Well, I think that's a good political thing. It's a good character thing. Joe Biden's a fucking miserable douche, racist loser, dementia-riddled old man, and hopefully they will all pay with fire. I'm just kidding. No, you're right. You're right. Good things, except for Biden. He's the worst. But I don't know. Let me know when you want to come back. Hey, we should. You know what we should do? We should check out Are you free on January 20th? That's when they're rescheduling this March. If it's not, are you free then?
That's my birthday.
That's your birthday? Oh, I knew it was in January. Okay, cool. Cool. We should hang out in the March. See if it actually goes down.
Hey, if that's not what you want to do, let's just go ahead and do it. I think we it's been a while since I've had time to spend time with you and to be around you, and I really do like what you're doing, and I appreciate the time and the space.
I appreciate you. Say hi to your kids for me too.
I sure will.
Are they still yelling all the time? I bet they're cool.
Man, look here. Now that they got this video game, this Sonic video game, they calm down.
Hey, looks like Santa helped, right? All right. Guys, be free thinking, innovative, open-minded. This is MLK Day Live, Time Nation Politics. Later.